Hello Bandicoot friends, my name is JMac.
Webbsta, Keith Webb.
We're going to make another video today about a game that we worked on called Crash Twinsanity.
Crash Twinsanity,
but
that's right.
Did you know that there was a previous version of the game?
Yeah, right.
That game was called Crash Bandicoot Evolution.
Crash Evolution, we can see it written just down here.
You might have seen a lot of art assets from this game on my channel before, but because we've got a lot of new subscribers, thank you very much for that. We thought we'd go through some of the surviving art assets and basically look through what we've got, tell you a bit about the game, see what we can remember.
Yeah, put it in some kind of order as well, so so it makes sense.
Yeah. So one thing that persisted from Crash Bandicoot Evolution all the way through to Twinsanity was the evil twins, the two kind of space parrots. I always thought they were influenced by, you know, Bugs Bunny, Marvin the Martian.
Right.
He goes up into space. He faces off against Marvin the Martian, and Marvin has dehydrated Martians,
okay.
I think they're called.
Yeah,
he
right.
puts them down,
Sure.
pours water on, and they turn into these big kind of parrot-looking things.
Yeah, ostrich.
I always thought the evil twins were based on that,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I'm talking out my arse.
Well,
or
so
not.
Rich was conceptised here. I think he said they were based on a couple of parakeets that he had.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but yes, you can see in the earlier versions here, they're much more angular, kind of more stern looking, and we can even see, here's some coloured versions of them, but yeah, even the models themselves, you can see how they're quite different.
Are those not the models that we had at the end?
No, these are quite different. Yeah, these are very. We can show a comparison on screen right now, but yeah, you can see that the heads are very different. So again, a much more kind of sci-fi-esque vibe. The comedy tone wasn't really the evolution kind of standard. It was much more sci-fi, kind of vibe. Here's the Twins logo, and John, you had an interesting
I was
story
actually,
about this.
obviously, this was designed by Rich, but I think I remember suggesting to him that we based it on do something similar to the kind of Transformers, Autobot and Decepticon logos. So I think Rich obviously thought it was a good idea, and we ended up with this. You can kind of see it's a bit angular, like the Decepticons logo.
But this makes it into Twinsanity. This logo.
Yeah, that survived through to the end.
So, yeah.
So Keith,
Yeah.
what are the twins' actual names? Because we always call them the twins, don't we?
So they are called Victor and Moritz, but I don't think this was a that was a Twinsanity kind of addition to them. So I don't necessarily think they really had names back in the evolution days.
Would you say you're happy with the name Victor and Moritz?
I wanted to call them Squabble and Squawk.
I wanted to call them Squawk and Peck.
Okay, right.
Spelt in a kind of sci-fi way.
Right. We've never talked about this before, so this is So everybody had their own internal names for what they wanted to call them, but yeah, Victor Moritz was the final name. Cool. Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about what the story was behind Evolution, because the whole story and one of the reasons why it may have been canned, but the idea was that
what we're looking at here,
we're looking at
old storyboards.
Yeah, so we're looking at storyboards here, and again we'll talk about the story first, but the idea was that the twins were on the hunt for one part, and so they were draining various different planets for the Wumpa juice for their refineries. And so
we're talking about the Wumpa fruit.
Yeah, the Wumpa fruit.
Crash Bandicoot's #1
trademark
collectible.
Trademark Wumpa fruit. So they would be on the hunt for various different planets to steal their resources, and they came across Earth. They grabbed a chunk of Earth, which you can see here, and lifted off up into space along with 5 other different planets and merged them together in a sort of mishmash world, a sort of combination of all the different worlds. These storyboards here were done by a guy called Perry Zombolis, and he was working for Universal at the time. I think he did some stuff for Crash Nitro Kart, and they got him once the concept of the idea of the story. He came up with some intro sequence storyboards. So there's a small version of them here, so you can see that story.
I don't remember ever seeing this.
Yeah, I think it was. It was.
So this was basically the justification for having the different worlds kind of combined together.
That's right.
There was like the 4 different worlds, and then there'd be like the core in the middle, which was the eventual goal of the game.
The final level, yeah. So and the way the worlds would play is you'd have to get between each one, you'd have a wormhole to kind of cross from one world to the other, as they'd be combined together with a bit of a gap in between them. So here's a bit of a storyboard of how you go through the wormhole. And again, there were a few different methods of potentially traversing from one world to the other.
We can see here we've got Crystal Gate marked on the diagram. The basic flow of the gameplay was to collect the crystals to enable the player to buy their way through the gate into the next world. And we were really planning to have like a kind of hub spoke based world system where within one world you had multiple levels that kind of connected together. And the big thing we were trying to do was get away from the loader level, player level, go back to the level select, go out again. We wanted all the worlds to mesh together seamlessly, and that was probably one of our primary goals for the whole game. Was it had to have streaming. You can't have loading screens anymore. It's like, it's 2002. Jak and Daxter's come out. You can't have loading screens anymore. Sure. So we were kind of almost obsessed by this to the point of, I don't know, making the overall game worse, I think, because we never managed to get streaming working as well as Naughty Dog did in Jak and Daxter. So we ended up with all these really rubbish long tunnels joining the levels together. And that's why you kind of get interesting bits of levels in the final Crash Twinsanity game. Big, long, really basic tunnel. And then the next bit, that was purely to hide the load, to load the next section in. Whereas Jak and Daxter managed it so much better. You had really nice level right next to each other. They just, I don't know how they managed to do it so much better than us, but they did.
Is that what the wormholes would have been then? They kind of
this is the stupid thing. We could have said, you go into a wormhole, you're in the wormhole for a bit, and then you're in the next level. It's just like a loading screen without without the word loading on it in any way. Anyway, enough cynicism from me. Right. What are we looking at now, Keith?
So in terms of the worlds themselves, so there were five different worlds. So we got the Earth. One of them obviously was probably this is the closest one to what Twinsanity ended up. So one chunk of it would be Earth, and so the obviously the similar elements of the Crash Islands would be.
Who did this artwork?
So this is a rich artwork. So I think at this point he was trying to emulate the Charles Dembellis original Naughty Dog style.
Yeah.
So you can see that's why you got the thicker outlines and the more kind of chunky looking stuff. So this is Rich's thing, and then you got Danny Flynn here again. Going through Earth. There was an area looking at some documents called Jungle Path and then a Voodoo Path. Does that ring a bell to you at all? No? A Mountain Path? Really? No. We'll see.
I should say that I started work on Crash Evolution around February 2002, and then it was December 2002 that things started to go wrong. So I don't know. It was a short space of time. My memories might not be that great. But yeah, let's go back to the levels.
Yeah, okay. So,
and actually, probably worth mentioning, Keith, you didn't join the project until February 2003, so you missed all this altogether.
So this is the stuff I know about. Is just from what I read in some recent documents, but also what people told me when I started, because obviously, I was curious as to what had been done up to that point. So I have a vague memory about what things.
What are those armadillos saying?
So these armadillos are saying, and I can read this. It says,
"Why can't he buy a damned football?"
That's right. Yeah. So I think
was he supposed to be kicking them around?
The armadillos around, yeah, which is why he's got a bandage on his head.
Very Flynn.
Yeah. So this is Danny Flynn.
We never had any armadillos modelled in the game, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. And John, you remember these?
I can't remember what we were used for. Like, just looking at these, this was some sort of training thing which would teach Crash about his moves, I think. Like, I remember the second one along, you can see he's kind of twisted and he's got arrows on. This was supposed to indicate to the player that you got to spin into it, and I think it would kind of like corkscrew out of the ground. It's possible that these came from one of our early demos, because we did about 5 different demo levels of the Earth path, and there was so many things in them. I've forgotten most of them, but I'm pretty sure that's the reason he's all kind of contorted.
Yeah, in the evolution kind of sandbox level that somebody found, I think this is working in one of those. So we'll put some footage of it if we find it. And this guy as well, maybe it's a spring or something.
That looks springy to me.
Springy, yeah, and this got the arrows up and down. I don't know what that is. Yeah. Cool.
I can't remember anything about. Yeah,
and then we mentioned this in a couple of earlier videos, but this is on the Earth Island as well. There would have been
there was a
Cortex's oil rig.
I don't think it was an oil rig. I think it was a Wumpa refinery.
Right.
I think at the centre of every world, the story was there's a Wumpa refinery, and all the Wumpa fruits would be being drained out of the world, refined in a Wumpa refinery at the centre of every world, and then kind of sucked out through pipes.
That's
to the core.
But this one here, because we got some of those later, this definitely is the Cortex thing, because there was a toxic, looking at some documents as well.
So this is something different.
Yeah, but we do have the refinery later on.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the one that then turned into that. We can see again.
I mean, did it just get turned into Cortex's lab?
Yeah, it did, so you can see it's slowly evolving into that, and there he is by the dry ocean bed. So again, I mentioned this in another video, that in the Earth bit there'd be a dry ocean seabed, because as the planet was the section of the planet was lifted up, the water would have drained out. So you got this here, and some pieces there.
Is that some bacon in the bottom right?
yeah, some nice bacon. Yeah, cool. I think these are some assets from that. And again, at the Earth bit, I think there'd have been a volcanic mountain as well. So a temple at the top, which we see here.
Yeah, lava temple. I remember running around in that.
And I saw a document where apparently you'd be able to surf down here as well, down that at the end of it or something, like on a little chunk of stone or something.
That would remain firmly in the just an idea category that we never. I do remember. I think this might be the first level that we attempted to do final art on. Get it up to a kind of decent art stage rather than just the kind of what we call block worlds. But yeah, I don't think we got much further than just what you can see here.
Right. Okay, cool. Then world number 2 will be in the balloon world.
Balloon City.
So we have here again. So this is another chunk of a different world that would have been merged with the other ones. So
the idea was it was an alien world where there was a city suspended underneath a balloon. It had various different zones within it. I can't remember. I think one of them was supposed to be a spaceport. I think that's what you're doing there.
Yep.
And then I remember there was a junkyard underneath. I think
called the trash market. Yeah.
Some high concept idea of all the trash is dumped off the city. I remember making a block world for this.
Right.
I can't remember much more about it.
Some more Richard's art.
Yeah.
Here we go. You think Dan did this one?
This is definitely Dan Tonkin.
16th of
October.
This was
the end of it, right towards the end. We were kind of, I don't know, we kind of just got to a point where we were realising nothing was working. But yeah, Dan joined the company. I think this is one of the first things he worked on, was making what we had look a bit better. But yeah, I don't know. We never really had anything working in the levels. It was just an empty level with nothing in it. That's the spaceport. I remember working on this. I can't remember anything about it. I think this is just it's just art. There was never any gameplay. There was nothing playable in this.
Okay, and this is a trash market.
Yeah, I vaguely remember there was an idea to have some sort of Cortex vehicle driving around in the trash market, and you had to get parts of it. That was the point of the trash market. You had to go around collecting parts of it. I vaguely remember this was the last thing I worked on Crash Bandicoot Evolution before we dumped everything and like started again. I remember setting up a very basic trash market level.
Right.
God knows what happened to it.
Did any of this ever get recorded? In terms of like footage of it, so nothing had ever
I doubt it. This was 2002.
Yeah.
It wasn't as easy to record footage from games back then.
No.
Like we were running everything on PS2 test kits, which connect directly to a TV. So there was no, as far as I know, there was no way of recording videos from it. It's probably really easy now. We didn't have mobile phones that could record videos, so it just it probably exists somewhere in an archive. But yeah,
Okay.
just in our head.
World
Damn
world number 3 was the Damn World.
Was that a whole world?
Yeah, it was a whole world. Yeah. So I think there was stuff you did inside it in terms of, and maybe I think up the side of the dam as well. And this kind of ocean.
I do remember working on
water
a
basin.
test level that took place on the side of the dam.
Right.
It was very similar to the Crash 1 levels where you're going up the side of a big,
sure.
like tribal stockade.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a bit like that, but
So, like up here probably. Yeah.
very, very basic stuff.